Hello everyone, my name is Hardik Bansal. I welcome each one of you to the initiative that has been started by Niranjan of Project Fly, where we will be helping you guys to prepare for the entrance exam of prestigious institutions like that of Delhi School of Economics, IGIDR, JNU, and to some extent ISI. So I will be taking the command of microeconomics and sometimes I will be taking the class of macroeconomics if Radhika won't be able to. So before I start with the first lecture of microeconomics, I would like to give you a basic a basic like that of idea why is it important to understand microeconomics for entrance purpose and for later as well. See, microeconomics is not only restricted to your entrance exam. In the first semester of Delhi School of Economics or IGIDR, the first subject that will come will be the microeconomics, and that has its applications in later as well. So, all of these things that you will be studying here will be used later, and it is very important to study each and every concept in a good manner because all of them are linked to each other. So the thing is that why do we need the first thing that I will be starting with will be the marginal demand function. We all know that the demand function means that there is the inverse relationship that exists between the demand and the price. But there is also one thing that need to be added. It is the demand function says that there exists inverse relationship between the price and the quantity keeping other things constant. So we will be discussing about the demand function. In the microeconomics, we study about the individual behavior, and in the macro, we study about the economy as a whole. But to study the economy as a whole, we need to study the individual behavior because that has its effect on the later outcomes. So there are two types of demand function: the Martian demand function and Hicksian demand function. So first, I will be starting with the Martian demand function, and why do we need to take into consideration first the demand function? See, if you are a consumer, what will be your objective? Your objective will always be to maximize your utility, means that your satisfaction with the given level of income. Nobody has unlimited income like that. Nobody is Ambani. Okay, so we need to maximize our utility given our income. So that is why what we are saying is that here it is written that demand function is finding the level of consumption of each of the good that will be maximizing our utility given the level of income. Now we all know that income is function of prices like that of real income. And here, the topics that we will be discussing in the marginal demand function are as follows. The demand functions, which are function of the prices, and income, which is marginal demand function. Then we go forward with indirect utility function, which you may not have studied in your undergrad, but it is very important concept which you need to study in here. And then we will discuss Hicksian demand function, and then utility function is the key thing that will be used everywhere. So this is the Cobb-Douglas utility function, which you all would be familiar of, and it you all would be knowing how to find the demand function from this. So I will be first starting with this. So it is the imperfect substitute means that the goods are not perfectly substitutable, means that you cannot use one good will not be giving the same level of satisfaction as the other good. That means the imperfect substitutes. The substitutes means is that both goods will be giving you the same level of utility. Either you consume X or you consume Y. But here the goods are not perfect substitutes. So this is the way of representation of utility function. Now I will tell you how to draw this function. Let's say that the utility of an individual is equal to 4. Now xy is equal to 4. Now there are different ways to get 4 by the different combination of x and y. Okay, and this is called as indifference curve. Indifference curve is that giving the same level of utility for the different combination of goods consumption. Okay, here are this like that of x is equal to 4, then y will be 1, X is equal to 2, then y will be 2, x is equal to 1, then y will be 4, x is equal to half, then y will be 8, and all of that. Now, there is one more thing that is mentioned here is that the consumption set. Now, the consumption set is that from starts from 0, which means that you can consume any value of good. You will never consume negative value of any good, right? Yes. So that is why we say that the consumption set or the consumption of any good starts from 0 and it can be infinity. Okay. And prices is excluding 0 because price of any good cannot be 0. If it would be 0, then there would be infinite demand for that good. If that good gives any utility to consumer, right? And now it is there like that of indifference curve definition, which I had explained you. Now, what will be the objective of the consumer? The objective of consumer will always be to maximize the utility given the level of income, right? So this is what we are going to do in this. Now, there is a way to maximize the utility. It is the Lagrange method, which you very much familiar, which you will be very much familiar of. I take that as a I assume that you would be knowing that, or if you don't know, then you can ask the Ranjan about this. Okay, so it is that of maximizing the objective function, which is the utility function, given the budget constant, which is m is equal to p1x plus p2y. Now, budget constant is that you can consume the quantity of goods up to your income. You cannot spend more than your income. Okay, right? You cannot borrow. Here we are assuming that. Now, there's a one thing that the Lagrange function says. Lagrange gives that point only where two constants touch and does not tell whether that point is maximum or minimum. That has a very big application later as well. That the Lagrange only gives the critical point. It does not say that it is maximizing or minimizing. Here you know that it will be maximizing. That is why there does not need to you do not need to think much. Okay, so Lagrange gives critical point only, and we need to find by ourselves which point is minimum maximum. Lagrange function is used only for differentiable function, which means that the function should be differentiable. It should not be that the function is not differentiable and you are using the Lagrange function, like that in the case of the perfect Cobb-Douglas goods. There is a kink function of utility, so that is why you cannot use Lagrange, like here it is written. So we are doing the Lagrange application here. The L is equal to xy plus lambda m minus p1x minus p2y, and then you differentiate with respect to x and you get this first equation. You differentiate with respect to y and you get second equation, and then you get differentiate with the lambda, you get third equation. Here I am doing all of this so that you get a better understanding of why the things happen the way they happen. Okay, you divide 1 and by 1 by 2, you get this function, and you get the y as a function of quantity x and the p1 upon p2. You put this into the budget constant so that you get the quantity of x as a function of income and prices. Means that the consumption of a good should depend on the income of the consumer and the price of that good in here. Similarly, you can find this and direct utility function. Direct utility function is the like that of utility is equal to x is equal to y, and marginal utility should always be positive. We know that this is the basic assumption that we start with, and the direct utility function will tell us how utility will change with change in quantity x and quantity y. But the thing is that we do not want to know how does the utility change with the consumption of good x and good y. We want to find out how does the utility change with the change in the prices of goods and the income of the consumer, right? We do not. So that is why we go for the indirect utility function. We put the optimal consumption of good x and good y into the direct utility function so as to get the indirect utility function. Here we are putting the x star and y star, which is this, and we get the indirect utility function, which we get by this. So here it tells us that it is the maximum utility that we can derive as constants like that of m and prices are determining the utility, right? Now it is also important for us to study the properties of indirect utility function. Sometimes they are asked directly in the papers like that of JNU. So it becomes important for you to know them. As we can see that the as income increases, the indirectly will increase because it is directly proportional to income, and it is inversely proportional to prices, right? So if the prices rises, the indirect utility will fall. Exactly. Like take an example. If your income will increase, you will be much more happy. So you will be able to purchase more of the goods and your utility will increase. Assuming that the prices of the goods are constant. Take another case when the price of the goods rises, the indirect will fall because you will have to spend more of the money on the consumption of that good with the given level of income. That is why your indirect utility will fall. So that is why it is said that indirect utility is increasing in income or non decreasing in income. इनकम इंक्रीज होगी तो इनडायरेक्ट यूटिलिटी हमारी इंक्रीज होगी ही होगी, और अगर हमारी इनकम इंक्रीज होगी तो कभी ऐसा नहीं होगा कि हमारी यूटिलिटी डिक्रीज हो। एग्जैक्टली। और दूसरी चीज़ है कि अगर हमारे प्राइसेस बढ़ते हैं तो हमारी इनडायरेक्ट यूटिलिटी घटेगी, या फिर हम इसको एक ऐसा भी लिख सकते हैं कि अगर हमारे प्राइसेस बढ़ते हैं तो हमारी यूटिलिटी जो है वो कभी बढ़ेगी नहीं। एक और इसमें अजम्पशन होती है दैट द यूटिलिटी फंक्शन, सो इसमें एक और चीज़ होती है कि अगर हम कह रहे हैं कि इसमें होमोजेनियस ऑफ डिग्री ज़ीरो होता है इनकम और प्राइसेस, अगर हम इनकम और प्राइसेस को ट्वाइस करते हैं तो हमारी इनडायरेक्ट यूटिलिटी जो है वो बढ़ती नहीं है। तो इसलिए एक सेकेंड, हाँ, तो होमोजेनियस ऑफ डिग्री ज़ीरो होता है अगर मैंने इनकम को ट्वाइस करा और प्राइसेस को, दोनों प्राइसेस को ट्वाइस करा तो मेरी इनडायरेक्ट यूटिलिटी जो है बढ़ेगी नहीं। हाँ, तो ये ही होता है इसमें, और फिर यहाँ पे जो है इसलिए होमोजेनियस ऑफ डिग्री ज़ीरो हो गया। और एक और असम्पशन होती है दैट द इनडायरेक्ट यूटिलिटी फंक्शन इज क्वाजी कॉन्वेक्स इन प्राइसेस। इसका मतलब जो है आप बाद में समझोगे जब आप मैथ्स के ये कंसेप्ट करोगे। ठीक है, तो ये मेरा ट्रायल हो गया, अब जो भी होगा मुझे बता देना।